You don't stick your hands in garbage disposals, snow blowers, lawn mowers, anything that does this spinny choppy motion. Blenders.
I'm KJ and my pronouns are she, her, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. This is the podcast where me and my fellow Supernatural fans recap Supernatural and discuss our supernatural opinions.
Today we are recapping Season 1, Episode 9, Home, which originally aired on November 14th, 2005. And here to help me do that is a great group of guests for the week. We have Meredith, Julia, Jordan, and Lucas. So, Meredith, remind everyone who you are.
Hello, I'm Meredith, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm doing great, and I'm happy to be here.
And Julia, welcome for, the third time, but also, the first time.
The first time? Yeah. Hello, I'm Julia. My pronouns are she, her, and my TikTok is at @honorary_idjit_67. And I'm also happy to be here again, but for the first time.
And Jordan.
Hi, my name is Jordan. My pronouns are she, her, and I am at PsychicChick21 on TikTok. And I am just happy to be here again.
Yes.
For the third time.
And Lucas.
My name is Lucas, and I'm a huge major of UNCG, and I am also on TikTok. My TikTok is the Doctor 9696.
Welcome back. As we've mentioned, this is our third time recording this episode, and so even though it is Julia and Lucas's first time with us, it's not really their first time with us.
Other times have been lost to the void.
Yes, Void has claimed them, and it's
the CW snipers. They weren't happy with us.
Yes, we're gonna do our best to to make this one worthy.
The poltergeist.
This week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode and may reference previous episodes, but will not contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural, except potentially an anecdote that I'm gonna tell about Route 666. But that's it. This week's episode is titled Home, and that's a reference to the place that we are going this week. We are going back to Lawrence, Kansas, the house that Sam and Dean lived in when their mom was alive, just because, we needed that trauma. We needed to experience that with them.
Pain. Ooh.
And this week's episode was written by Eric Kripke and directed by Ken Girardi. Perfect Eric Kripke solo episode. He wrote the pilot on his own. Obviously, he created the show, so he's been involved with all of the episodes in season 1, but sole writing credit on here. So, it makes sense. This is all the backstory on the Winchesters that we really needed. We get a lot from this. And Ken Girardi is a really experienced director. I recognize quite a few of his projects. 2 episodes of And with an E. Gone too soon. 4 episodes of Orphan Black, several different Law and Orders, an episode of New Amsterdam, 14 episodes of Vikings, and surprisingly, his only episode of Supernatural is this one, so he just couldn't fit it back into his schedule, it seems like, with all of that.
He sounds busy.
Yeah, I'm assuming that he was too busy, because all of those things that I just mentioned are really good. And I'm sure he was just busy with those.
Right.
This week's recap was set to the end credits music, which screwed up my brain. I am very much a Pavlov's dog when it comes to theme music. I looked away for a second, was like, why did I screw this up? Did I accidentally skip to the end of the episode? Nope, they just decided to put the end music over this previously on.
It's targeted at you specifically.
Yes.
Listen, how can we make KJ's life really confusing right now?
But not for 15 years, because KJ was a child when this episode originally aired.
Listen, they planned ahead.
We started off in Lawrence, Kansas with a sad mom and a little girl with a monster in her closet, who I'm just going to refer to way too many times as the fire monster in her closet.
That's the best kind of monster to have amongst a bunch of flammable stuff.
Yep. And It's gonna be like midway through this episode before I remember the mom's name, so she'll just be referred to as Mom for a while. She's a good mom. She checks the closet just to make sure that it's good, but it's unnaturally dark in there. It's much darker than the rest of the room, which is a little sus. She's a single mom with 2 kids. They just moved into this house, and the girl makes the mom prop a chair under the closet door just to be safe. And like, same. I feel like that's something I've made my parents do.
Might as well, right?
I mean, better safe than sorry.
Exactly. There could be anything in there. It's unnaturally dark.
Yeah. So the mom goes back to unpacking, but she thinks she hears rodents in the basement and goes to investigate. I wouldn't be going to investigate. My mom has a fear of rodents, and I think rodents are fine, but I don't want them in my house. I definitely wouldn't be going to like seek them out in the middle of the night because I won't be able to do anything about it. I'll just have to live with the knowledge that they're there.
Right.
She's downstairs investigating the rats, and she finds a bunch of photos of the Winchesters, and that's fun. So we're led to believe that this is their home, and then we're up in Sari's room. Her name's Sari, the girl. And the chair moves itself away from the closet. So that better safe than sorry did not pay off. In fact, it made it all the more terrifying.
That's a really bad sign. And now we know that this is the Winchesters' house, so that's another bad sign. So
yeah, and the monster in her closet is on fire, and it's the same rolly fire from when Mary was killed, so very scary.
yay.
Therapy coming soon.
Yes.
To a TV show near you.
And then we're with Sam, and he's dreaming of the house and of the mom standing in the window screaming and like pounding on the window for help. And then Dean is up and he is looking for cases, and Sam is drawing the tree that he saw in his dream. And Sam realizes that he knows the tree from the photos taken in front of their old house. And the Winchesters definitely sprang for duplicate photos. Duplicate photos in the 80s used to cost extra money because photos were taken on film. And there's at least 3 copies of this photo of John and Mary in front of the house because the mom had one that she found in the basement. Sam had one when he lived at Stanford, and they have one now, which maybe Dean already had, but also might have come from the pilot. They found a bunch of John's family photos in John's motel room that he didn't take with him for unknown reasons. That's at least 3 copies, which is more than they would have provided at the photo place. So they definitely paid for extras.
They wanted to be thorough.
But it's sad that they left them behind in the house. I feel like John is being very careless with the photos of his wife. Like, he never went and got them from the basement of the house.
Right? Yeah.
And he also left them in the motel room in the pilot.
Like, they forgot a lot of stuff in that house.
Like, he was consumed with revenge enough to, like, dedicate his life to avenging her, but he didn't want to
But he didn't go back and get the family photos, and then he left them in the motel room in the pilot. Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know. I could understand maybe like not going back to the house to get stuff, but like you can pack up the motel room.
Right.
The copies that he had, and they carried for 20 years.
Get it together, John.
Like, he's had... like, I feel like that's very careless. Sam insists that they must go to Kansas, but won't say how he knows that they have to go to Kansas, and Dean is not into the blind faith in Sammy in this moment.
Yes.
He wants a definitive reason to go.
Right.
This is the site of his, like, largest childhood trauma.
Right.
Yeah, I understand needing a more definitive reason to go, especially like largest childhood trauma. That's where his mom died.
I also think it's, like, a perfect example of, like, kind of the evolution of how Sam and Dean learned to trust each other through, like, the later seasons. It also highlights Dean's coping mechanisms to hearing information he doesn't like. To his past traumas being brought up, he just logics it away. He likes to, like, no, if I can use logic to dispute this, it's not real. If I can just, when you rationalize it, you're just like, oh, you know, this isn't a real problem.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, you can see the fear in his eyes when he hears Sam talking about dreaming about their old house and seeing this woman in their old house that's in danger. You can just see the fear in his eyes, hearing like, what the hell am I getting into?
I know they don't really mention it here, but like the mom, I think her name is Jenny.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's in my notes later.
She's pretty and young and blonde, and she has 2 kids, one of which is a baby. Like, that's just parallels.
Yeah, so paralleled.
Yeah, when they look at her, I 100% think that they see Mary in her.
Right. I also want to draw attention to the beginning, kind of a little bit before before this, but whenever Sam was kind of like half listening and like drawing in the notebook or whatever, and Dean was trying to get him to listen to his cases. Right, that moment where Dean's like trying to list examples and he's not listening, he's like, hey, you know, is anything, and I think he said, anything blowing up your skirt, pal?
Oh.
And I think, yes, I think this is a great time to bring up that discussion. Hating how much of a misogynist they made Dean in earlier seasons. I think this is a prime example of how they like subtly like pushed that.
Yeah, 100%.
And from a creative perspective, I think it was wrong on the writer's part to create a character so early in the series to have those traits of misogyny.
Well, you already had John.
I know, right?
Right, but also they made him a protagonist as well, and so you know you have young viewers at home that will idolize that and look up to that and be like, oh, that's the good guy in the story.
Yeah.
In this way.
Yeah,
and
like,
so
you need to be careful about what kind of flaws you give to your protagonist. Something like misogyny
It's
or
hard.
animal abuse.
It's hard.
Right.
Yeah, like,
exactly.
Right. It's harder for audiences to forgive certain things.
Right, and considering his journey throughout the series, though, like, it could be seen as, like, a good choice on that part to show him grow out of that and how he kind of ditches those toxic ideals later on.
Right.
Especially as he distances himself from John. I think it's very evident that he becomes a lot less of a misogynist the less time he spends around John. And I think that it could be brilliant in that perspective. But again, they need to be very careful in what they normalize and in what they make the protagonist's ideals.
I'm going to come for Eric Kripke a little bit here.
Yes.
Eric, please don't be mad at me. Actually, you know what? Be mad at me. Be mad at me. You know what? I'm gonna own it. I think that this is misogyny of the writers, and specifically Eric Kripke. Because there's a way to make your protagonist a player without making them a misogynist.
Right.
And you know what? If you're honest and upfront with the other person at every step that it's just a one-night thing and everybody's a consenting adult who agrees to those terms, it doesn't matter how many people you sleep with. As long as everybody's on board and understands that that's what the expectations are coming into it. That's fine. Because the whole thing in season 1 is Dean's supposed to be this, player, with the ladies, which, fine, whatever. But I just feel like, there was a way that the writers could have done that without making him say gross stuff like this, and they just chose not to do that. That was a decision that they made.
And the thing with this example, with the anything blowing up your skirt, pal, I feel like the way it was so normalized was, I don't even think the writers were taking into consideration Dean's journey with, toxic masculinity at all. I straight up think this was a throwaway line that just showcased the misogyny of the writers.
Yeah.
I don't think they had any forethought into the future of Dean's personal growth, at all.
We're going to go into misogyny a lot on this show. I have rants that we're going to go through for years.
I agree 100%. When this show is problematic, I think we can't excuse the writers for that. They had the opportunity to not do that. It is interesting that Sam tells Dean about these nightmares here, because just 4 episodes ago in Bloody Mary, he was very adamant that he was not going to tell Dean about these nightmares. I get it. I mean, I've had nightmares that come true before.
Yay!
Usually they're about something not great happening, but it's never been life or death for me, so I mean, I guess I can be grateful for that.
And in this situation, I guess we can appreciate how strongly Sam feels that they need to go save this one. Because in his case, if Dean believes that he's a psychic, he could become one of the things they hunt. And that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That is a concern for sure.
Right. He could be risking his life here for all we know.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Especially the way that John raised Dean to be a soldier instead of, the brother.
We see over the course of the series Sam and Dean be fairly lenient in their definition of what qualifies as a monster. John did not raise them with that leniency. That comes from the two of them and their development.
This is something I enjoy. This is something that every single rewatch I do, I always try to pick up more on it because it's so interesting to me. But I'm just a sucker for tangible examples of character growth. But I think this is one of them where in the beginning they start out with a very clear, very defined, this is what a monster is. This is what we do to monsters. No exceptions. Shoot, ask questions later. But then throughout the series, you see them kind of bend that, and it's like that sound on TikTok where it's bendy, 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 break. It's that's kind of how I feel like it went. Later throughout the seasons, they were just bending it, and then, season 4, we're working with angels. Aren't angels monsters? Don't we kill monsters? I don't know. And then, like,
they're jerks.
Right, exactly. And, like, just later throughout the seasons, we see them kind of break that whole rule more and more and more. And then, spoilers kind of for, like, future. Yeah, moral dilemma, but spoilers for the future. They're working with demons and stuff, and it's like, we kill these things. Why are we working with? So anyway, it's just very interesting to watch that evolve throughout the seasons.
Seeing this in like the early stages of them working together, and how they haven't really had any of those moral dilemmas yet, and Sam could probably be one of their first moral dilemmas.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it really does start here with Sam, with this dream stuff, which we're going to keep getting into. But something in there is happening that John did not raise in them.
Right.
Dean's still not fully on board with going back to